Social and Family Affairs came in for tough criticism from the Controller and Auditor General for its failure to identify the full extent of taxpayers' money being lost through fraud and error. The CNAG concluded the department had failed in this regard and that every survey reviewed by his office suggests a much greater level of fraud and error than was reported by the department. Again, we put this to the Director General.
In simple yes or no terms, can you give me either a percentage or a monetary value on the money that is being paid out incorrectly through error or being claimed fraudulently?
On a scheme-by-scheme basis, I can look at that in terms of the schemes for which we have recent fraud and error survey information.
But not,
beyond that, there is a danger
okay,
attached.
You can't give me an overall
figure,
though?
No.
No.
If we look at the schemes where there have been fraud and error surveys, it's possible that there could be a level of fraud and overpayment to the tune of about 10%.
If 1 in 10 of the cases were fraudulently claimed, and we spent 22 billion this year on welfare, that's 2.2 billion. I've also seen a figure at 1 in 7 welfare claims are fraudulent. If it's 1 in 7, it's getting close to 3 billion.
Do you accept that it could be as high as 10 or 15% of the total budget?
I think that it, depending on the particular scheme and the particular circumstances prevail, you may find fraud or error levels coming out at high points, but we immediately then look to address the particular risks involved in those schemes.
What would you determine as being as high points? Or how would you define high points?
You mentioned 10 to 15%.
You would consider that's their high points, but
yes.
that it is possible that there is that level of fraud or error in some of the schemes, at 10 to 15%.
I think at particular moments of time, while we're actually trying to put in place measures or while we're putting in particular actions or interventions, that may occur.
In many cases of welfare fraud, the cost to the taxpayer doesn't end with the loss of the money. There are also the costs of the court case. That's if the person is ever caught or brought to court in the first place. Those costs keep rising every time a case is adjourned. Sometimes the adjournments can drag on for years.
You bring the case into court, the first day there's a plea of guilty, and then you know you're going to still be dealing with the case in 2 or 3 years' time as money's been deducted at the rate of a tenner a week, and there's 5,000 euros involved. That takes a long time to repay, and in the meantime the inspector has to turn up in court at every adjournment. I have to turn up in court at every adjournment. The paperwork has to be updated, and this whole thing is something of a farce, I suppose.
There is a tendency to adjourn these cases to see can restitution be made. I suppose if you're asking me, would speedier outcomes help? Yes, they would.